Hey guys, some gamer dude here. So after a long time, the Kiwi TCG Flesh and Blood is looking to come out. All I knew about the game was that DZF was sent a promotional card, and from what was shown, the game had a major theme of weapons and armor. This was back in January, or thereabouts. Now it's set to come out this month, and one of my local stores put up pre-orders. I'm like, so it's finally coming. I check out the prices, and it's very competitive, undercutting every other game. As a very frugal man, this sparks my interest alone. Art looks great, attractive designs with good use of colour, a rarity in Western games today. Sounds good so far. Then we get to the gameplay. It's derivative of something I never thought would inspire other games, the Universal Fighting System. To be really frank, from the Learn to Play video at the very least, it seems to be a substantial improvement from UFS, removing the chance factor of the control check for much more deliberate actions, an evolution of UFS. Actually, while I do think there is definite influence from UFS, Flesh and Blood changes so much, it feels like its own unique entity, its own theme going along to help this. So where is Flesh and Blood derivative of UFS? While the game is a 1v1 combat game, your character has a unique life and hand size that they draw up to, printed on their character card, and your turn is your turn. There is more that bears more than a passing resemblance, but those are the ones that are the most direct comparisons. The resource system is completely different and better. Pacing seems monumentally better, and you don't have attacks existing on different planes of existence. Blocking is also much more direct. I also like the idea that you have a built-in attack with your weapon. The game as a whole is fairly straightforward. You pitch a card to generate resources depending on its colours, also conveyed on the top left of the card. You can use those resources to pay for attacks and abilities, costs being in the top right. The entire attack component is much better. The defense system works like Vanguard's shield system, mixed with attacks having trample from magic. So you can block with any amount of cards, and if there is any spillover, that becomes damage. There are also defensive actions the defender can use. Unless your attack or action has a keyword, go again, your turn stops afterwards. No increasingly difficult attacks that can fizzle, just a straight yes or no. Then you draw up to your hand size. I can't say this without actually playing the game, but I am concerned that you are kind of stuck at one attack per turn without any draw power. You do draw at the end of your turn up to your hand size, but that means that you have to feel both your opponent's turn blocking and your turn attacking with those cards. Resource management, more in terms of the hand rather than the resources themselves, seems very important. One thing I do really like is how confined the modifications to attacks and blocks is. UFS always had this problem where you throw an attack, then a while later, it's your opponent's chance to block. Modding the attack and the upcoming block took ages because there is just so much on board, namely the foundations. With Flesh and Blood, it seems to be at most the arsenal on board and actions from the hand, nothing to bog down the game's pacing. Plus, since the hand is the resource system itself and you draw after your turn, you might end up using those cards before your turn. The resource system itself I prefer for similar reasons. It's just much more straightforward. Its decision making is less of a vertical learning path. Foundations took a while to get used to, since they are resources, modifiers, and blocks, so how you play them and as what took some time to learn. I just prefer where the choices in Flesh and Blood are. The game does have two unique aspects though. You can put a card face down to hold on to. This is called the Arsenal. It really only works with action cards though, since cards are given specific terms as to how they are used, and the term for the arsenal only works with action cards. You can't pitch, defend, or attack from the arsenal. Given you draw to your hand size at the end of your turn, this is pretty cool. The second aspect is the game has armory. I mentioned weapons and how they can be used in place of cards from the hand to attack, but you have a full suit of armor too, which can be used to defend. Head, body, legs, and arms. These can be used for defending or abilities. There isn't much talked about in terms of deck building or the full rule sheet just yet, so I'm not sure on the specifics, but armor seems to be destroyed if it has a worthwhile defense value. But the cards are all shown are generic. The boxes for the starter decks also they come with a full set of armor separate from the main 60 card deck. So I don't know where the armor goes when it's destroyed. The reason this is important is that the deck cycles in this game when you run out of cards. If they go to the discard and you can cycle them back into play, it's something you can do. More defensive options. One thing I do like about this game is that it's class based, coming with four: the Warrior, Ninja, Guardian, and Brute, all with unique fighting styles. Attacks, blocks, and actions are locked to your class if they are not generic, and are sometimes locked to specific heroes. I like this much more than the system of icons from UFS. It's straight up Panini DBZ, but it does help balancing more than quite a bit. The game will not have rotation and is going to be extremely susceptible to power creep, so anything to balance it is a step in the right direction. Though, from experience, complexity creep and textbook cards are more of a concern. I am curious whether we can decipher any cost to power ratios in every class, so we can keep tabs on power levels. It will be interesting to see as the game expands what classes come, how different they are, whether new classes make too much of a splash, and whether new heroes for old classes cause any issues. I'm also curious as to whether certain classes will develop a staple tumor problem, wherein regardless of what hero you use, specific cards in that class are always there, and it's a fairly substantial amount of the deck. The game developing an issue where there isn't enough build diversity, and the classes are fairly one-dimensional. So that's my initial gut reaction to Flesh and Blood. I don't think it looks bad at all. I think I would definitely like to try it out before I say anything more concrete on my opinions, especially regarding hand management and how many attacks you can perform, defensive options and the like, but as I said, doesn't seem bad. It's kind of funny it launches now, and UFS rebrands with a new anime theme as Universes next year. I think UFS has always had an issue wherein the IPs sell the game because the game itself is rather extreme in terms of opinions. If you like it, you love it. If you dislike it, you hate it. The dislike side being the larger side. But the game stays around because of a devoted fanbase and the IPs that Sabretooth, Fantasy Flight, and now Jasco license. I think Jasco gets this, hence the rebranding. But it's the gameplay and constructed format that are the game's issues. UFS will get a bump from Universes and seemingly going the path of Chrono Clash. It's the My Hero Academia TCG using the Universes system, rather than a My Hero Academia Universes set. But I think it will be temporary once people attempt to play it and learn the divisive nature of the game. Then we have Flesh and Blood, which seemingly irons out all the issues with UFS's convoluted gameplay and ridiculous level of decision making it into something much more manageable and approachable. I do hope Flesh and Blood gets a look in. Not only is it an indie game supporting LGS, God knows they need that, but from what I can see, it seems well made and it looks enjoyable. I'm not sure I can get a review done for this one anytime soon, but I do think going to their site and watching their Learn to Play video is worth your time. I'll put a link in the description. This has been Some Gamer Dude, and thanks for watching.